Share screen. Right. Welcome to the webinar, everybody. So today is just about a gentle walkthrough of InterHerd Plus, particularly aimed at old InterHerd users, just to give you a flavour of what this program can do, how it looks, and how it compares to InterHerd. So crucially, this is one choice, one path of changing your software from old InterHerd, which is no longer developed, to this one, and here it is. So this is a KPI graph. So as you open the program, you do actually have a choice of opening screens. So you don't have to look at this because it doesn't change too frequently. It's based on yearly stats, which is the black square, and 3 monthly figures for all sorts of parameters. So you can see the list of parameters here. This is your value for rolling 12-month compared to a target over here of the top 25% of herds, and that's represented by the black line straight down the middle. So it's a really good benchmarking tool using 500 herds worth of data, and actually you're looking to see, am I reaching my target? You know, if that's where you aspire to be. If we're heading off to the left-hand side of the page, you know, have things suddenly taken a downturn? So there's lots of ways you can have a look at how well your herd is performing in a general sense for fertility, milk quality, basically. Just moving on from there, if I go into, you'll see the menus across the top here now. So we can actually view different screens at once. We don't have to close one screen to view another. I want to show you the herd structure. So you could actually open your InterHerd Plus with this one and see a synopsis of the herd right here, right now. So here's our total number of cows in yellow as a summary across the top. And then there's a horizontal bar. This one you can move up and down. So this shows you, firstly, all of those 164 cows and lots of information about them. But crucially, you can actually pick and choose cows based on fertility status. Now, at the moment, we've got a block calving herd here, so everything is at the sort of no heat stage. You could actually then click on there. That shows you then 151 no heat not served cows. These are listed so, and then there's different information in this table, which is more relevant to what you're watching them for. So how many days in milk they are, that's the order in which this one appears. You know, last milk yield. And you'll note also, if I go back to here, that we have a colour coding on a lot of these tables, which is all about yonis. So straight away we can identify our negative yonis cows in green. We've got some orange ones. Now those are what's called P-neg, which means they are low at the last test, but they've had a previous high test. So they're not classed as J5s, but they are ones to watch. They could just rumble along in the background, no problem at all. They may well pop up again with another high, you know, and depending on the criteria as to whether they change category. So definitely very important. And they also can relate to priority culls, which is quite a new setting. But all of the Yonis results are on InterHerd Plus. We've got a fantastic report to see everything Yonis on here. I go into this one, and these results come in automatically. As long as you open the program, you're online, it will check for new data behind the scenes. So anything new from NMR, your milk recording results and your Yonis test results will come in. It just fires up a little wizard that brings in these results straight away, as I say. And then you've got all of the back history as well. So this kind of table shows you, you know, how well you've done over all of your tests over time. And also is comparing, again, as a benchmarking tool. Now, there's only about 200 herds in this particular study, but they've all been using HerdWise, which is our quarterly testing scheme, for a number of years. So that's what these colour codings here tell you. If it's dark green, you're in the top 25% of those 200 herds. Orange is kind of average, and then pink would be the bottom 25%. So you can see from this herd, over time since 2020, we've really improved on average test value levels being now top. We've got no J5s at all now. J4 parity ones, nothing sneaking in from lactation 1 animals. So really good success story. And again, following the summary, you've got the detail below, so you can see then all of your cows and their current status. Just to highlight the priority culls a little bit, this is quite a new feature. So it's all about now, you know, as well as monitoring J5s, we've kind of got the gist there. But priority culls are ones who have had 1 high test over 100 or 2 over 60, not necessarily consecutive. So just taking it that little step further, and I can actually then identify, I don't know how many priority culls I've got, only the 1 actually, but if I use this little filter button here, just say, show me the priority culls, and it's just this 1 cow here, but you can see she is currently a J4. Why is she important? She was low throughout her Yoni's test history. Last test has just cropped up out of nowhere. So actually, she's been sold. So that's fine. But it's just another way of looking at the results of your information and, you know, double checking all of those cows that creep up on you. Yoni's being what it is, it's very flexible in its results. You know, they can go up and down depending on how the cow is feeling and stressed and all the rest of it. So it really gives another element to that regular testing necessity, really. So just moving on from the Onies, lots and lots in there, as you can see. We've got all your milk recording results in here, but we've got all the day-to-day stuff as well. So under my management reports, this is one of the key menu areas, really. I can go to the herdsman's list, and then straight away, I've got some information to work on. Again, you can have this as an opening screen. So at the moment, we've got some service deadline cows, and you'll recognise the format in that we've got, you know, the SRDL element of an event that's due. So all of the event settings that are in old InterHerd come over to here straight away. We don't change any of the parameters, you know, when you want to serve cows after calving, all that kind of thing transfers exactly. And then you've got these sort of tables to work through and to give you all the normal lists that you're used to seeing. So these are the cows that have reached their expected service deadline. You've got days in milk here as well. And again, you'll notice that these grids all have a line at the top. And this is really powerful. So you can actually filter out the exact cow list that you want to see. For example, if I'm looking for a particular animal, there's 150 on this list. So it might be, I could scroll up and down. Yes, that's fine. But if I just say, find me this particular number, I press enter. There we go. We can go straight to cow 144. I press escape. That cancels that filter as well. Or it might be we just want to look at maybe lactation 1 animals. I can filter out those. So this is an equal to. There we go. I can also right click on the header and just check how many lactation 1 animals I got. So there's 50 rows that meet that criteria. And you can have multiple filters as well. So if you were looking for something like lactation 1 animals over, or let's say 150 days, actually that's an equal to. So what I need to do there is a greater than. As an example, there we go. We filtered those down. So out of those 150 animals, there are actually 31 that meet my criteria, and so on and so on. So you can actually then drill down really quickly to find exactly who you're looking for. We can right click on an animal. And old InterHerd, if you're, you know, really au fait, you'll know that a right click did take you into things like the animal record. Here we can do a whole lot more. So we can actually record an event against that animal, or do some scores, sell them off, move them around. You can also multi-select. So when the batch entry options come into play, this is very quick and easy. So if I had a whole load of cows to serve today with the same bull, let's say, I can just pick my animals here. I then, now I can right click, or I can go to data entry, record a batch event. And then we get this little window popping up here, just like the event pad of old. And that's also a feature on here as well. If I put in the date 23, event type, you'll see there's our list of events as before. I go to service, I can make this a bit bigger so we can actually see, but it's quite nice to have a little window because you can just double check which 5 animals you've got selected just to make sure you've got the right ones. But there's our sire options, operator, if you want to add that as well, supplies for things like medicines or semen stocks, that's fine. I save that, and that's then served those cows all together on the same day quite nicely as a batch. Further to that, we can do things like PDs as a batch. And if I just include heifers for a second. So now we go to PD. There we go. I've got some heifers on here. You can split these out if you want heifers on one list and cows on another. You can do that as well. I can tick just as before. So you can pretty much do everything as a batch apart from a calving. Here, I can also do select all. So if you wanted to do a vaccine for the whole herd, that kind of thing, really quick and easy, right click again, scheduled event, PD, and off we go. I'll just show you the event pad as well. So if you'd rather enter data as it happens one at a time, we can just go to data. Oh, sorry, event pad. There we are. And then you'll see this is quite a similar format to old InterHerd as well. So nothing particularly unusual here. Our list of animals, set perhaps the order in which they appear, of course. I choose an animal, or I can type one in. Then we get to event type, and I'm just going to show you, for example, a mastitis case. Okay. Results, same as previously. So again, whatever results you put in, it might be you've created some extra ones. Those all get transferred across. Operator, again, who treated the cow, that's fine. You'll see we don't have a categories option. So that's quite a big change, but actually it's been replaced by event variables, just to sort of streamline and structure the options a little bit more. All of those variables can be changed or added to, but for things like mastitis, you know, we've got a variable of a quarter or multiple quarters you can put in. I'll show you another example of culling in a second. You can see how that works. And then we can add our medicines. And again, very similar to how we would have done previously. Here's some meds I bought earlier. So let's say she's had 1 tube. It picks up my batch that I bought in previously. Batch number, expiry date. I could then add another drug on the bottom and so on. And then I save it. Okay. Let me just do something else just to show you. So another cow. This time we want to do a cull. So again, result, as per usual, we always need a result in there. We've got destination, just the same. And then we have these variables. So under culling, lots and lots of options for why a cow has gone. As I say, all the normal things you can see on here. But we can manipulate these tables if there's something that we haven't thought of that you need to put in. And you can have 2 reasons. So it might be, you know, milk yield and maybe fertility as well. So you can add those 2 in. You'll notice down here as well, this is a list of what's happened to that cow previously. So you just got that as a reference tool, including the yonis. So they are interspersed in the list of events there. Then if I save again, that clears. Now we might want to see what we've put in to the program as a log. And old InterHerd used to have a log right in front of you on the right hand side. I've got a log button here, so this will keep tabs on what I'm doing and actually shows you the date and time that you entered something. So quite useful. There's the date of the event. So that's 89 I've just done. Actually done at 12:16. There we go. So if you ever need to refer back, you know, go back maybe up to 100 days, I think it does. You can see exactly, you know, did I enter that service for that cow? Of course, you can check a record as well, or it might be a batch of vaccines, something like that. You can just record and see what you did when. Now I can close that screen and I will cancel out of there. So the screens that I've been in previously are all still open. In fact, just to show you, if I make this a bit smaller, you know, we can then move things around the screen if you needed to view bits and pieces side by side. That's perfectly doable. Let's close up some of these now. The individual animal bits are again up here, animal register. And this is also an opening screen choice. So again, you could come straight into here. And you can enter data into here as well. I know some people like to use the animal records to put information in because you can see all of the back history, potentially in a bit more detail. So that's perfectly doable. The white line, you know, the spare space is there again to do that. Absolutely fine. Similar sort of structure as before. We've got all the lactation history here. We've got this nice sort of toolbar of a summary of what's happened to that cow as well. So if I just narrow this down a bit, again, we look for an animal. So let's say 95. Go. I can see at a glance her status, whether she's milking or not, lactation number, days in milk, if she's due to calve, when that's going to be. Ear tag and date of birth, all sorts of general information. And these tables, I mean, they start off quite long, but you can manipulate them as well, save it into a smaller format. You know, if you only need line number and a couple of other bits, then you can make that quite small. The middle section, fairly fixed. I mean, again, you could hide things out of the way, but it's all to do with her lactation history. So we can go back in time and view what happened previously. And we've got other things as well, like, you know, identity details, sire and dam information, all that kind of thing. One actual nice feature on here is the all events. Should you need to hone in on a particular animal and see, well, how many mastitis cases did she have, or how many times has she been served in her lifetime, or whatever it happens to be, you can actually then filter here. So if I just use serve as my example, there we go. We can just see, if this is of any use to anybody, all the services that she's had ever. Or it might be in, you know, different event or a different type of event, whatever it happens to be there. Back on the current day, though, under lactations, we've then got the third option at the bottom, which is our list of actual events that have gone in, and scheduled events as well. And those, exactly the same structure, as I say, but they do look a little bit different because now there's an actual calving recorded with a tick. Her heat deadline and service deadline are greyed out without a tick, which means they are still scheduled to happen. So before we had the little grey and red clock, so it's just been replaced with a slightly different line, but they do stand out, and you can see, you know, again on any action list who is due what at the same time. The Yoni's information, as I say, you can see all of these interspersed with the events, or again, you could use your all events and just look at the Yoni's ones, but it will give you a classification and the actual result value as well. Let me just go to another cow. So if I escape out of here, there we go. We can then look at the herd and say, I think they're all no heat. Let's try 96. There we go. Now this cow has a DNS, a do not serve. So this was a question that came up from somebody before the webinar. How do I make cows barren? So you see she's got a barren status. It's done through this event, basically. So you would apply a do not serve, or it might be under NS, not to be served, as an actual event. And that will then put in a scheduled cull. Now she's actually been sold today. That was me tinkering around. Oh yeah, that's the one I just did, isn't it? But if you what was I going to say? Yes, if you put it in, there's several ways of doing this. It could be a do not serve. You've made the decision not to serve that cow. Or it could be estrus not observed is another example, which will then schedule in a cull. And again, those settings haven't really changed much from old InterHerd, so they would apply. You know, there's several ways of getting a scheduled cull to an animal, or even an actual cull that's scheduled, literally, rather than an actual event, if you see what I'm saying. So that would also have the same desired effect. Makes her barren, takes her out of the equation for vet lists and the like. Anything that does go in, so with all this data entry here, you'll see it is slightly different layout. The destination or the sire, if it's a service, is now on this right-hand side, but we can change anything. So if I've made a mistake, actually she went to this market, not that one, just click elsewhere, and then you'll see we've got the save button up here. So I can adjust that one. It's now saved. Or it might be I put the date in wrong, so I can just override that one. Maybe she went on the 8th instead. Enter, and then again save to finish. So anything at all you can change in that way, or delete the event completely. Yeah, much the same as we've done before, really. And again, with this top table, let's say we wanted to hide the detail. So we just want a list of all cows. Now you'll see at the top here, we've got a total number of animals. So 311 animals in the herd total. So that's everything that's present on this day. So today, cows, heifers, everything. We can start to drill down to maybe cows. So I could put in here, greater than 1. Now we know the totals from the herd structure screen, absolutely. So that gives us 109 animals, greater than lactation 1. Actually, that would be greater than 0 technically, wouldn't it? You can also then filter maybe on fertility. So we want to see, well, how many barreners have we got within that little list? And again, we've got a really succinct list of cows quite quickly, and we can do something to them as well. So if all those barreners left on the same day, I could just select all, do a batch entry from here if I wanted to. So I could then record an event, or I could actually sell them off, move them into a group, and so on. So really handy for using that filter to find an animal. There are also often times where it's a little bit random. So if I just deselect those, it might be that we want to pick out, completely random cows. They've got no relation whatsoever to each other. They're all different lactation numbers. They're all different fertility statuses. You can actually then just look at those as a list in isolation. I tick there, press enter. There we go. I've now got just my random cows on a list, number in total, and then again we can do something to them. Or it might be we want to maybe print this out, add to a document for later use, or export to Excel. So those are all possible for any grid that's on the program. So just in summary, you've got lots and lots of different lists and ways of getting the data out and putting the data in, certainly. It is quite a big program. There's lots of analyses on there as well. And, if there's enough interest, I can certainly do perhaps another webinar another time to show how powerful it is for things like fertility. Certainly the benchmarking is pretty unique as well. Other day-to-day bits, though, just to mention, we've got links to NMR from here. So you can send up your event every day if you wanted to. It's run manually, but it will send all of your events, so your carvings, your services and so on, up to NMR in real time, which means when the recording happens, we've already got that data in. And we've got links to CTS, so official notifications here. You can apply for your passport through the programme, movements as well. And just recently, we've got Scotty ID as well. So if there are any Scottish herds, you can again do your passport through here. That works absolutely fine. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to cover today to show you. I'll just close up this one and leave that particular screen there. Happy to answer any questions. Let's come back to, I'll leave the screen on for a moment. See. Oh, hang on. There we go. Oh, that's my transcript. We don't need to see that. Okay, so there is a Q&A option at the top of your screen. It might be at the bottom. If you have got any questions, or you can pop something in the chat. Let me just see. Nothing coming through, so it might be you think of something afterwards, in which case do absolutely drop me a line. I'm going to send the recording to everybody anyway, and I'll also post it on YouTube, so we've got a accessibility to it, so you can always catch up that way. But do drop me a line if there's anything else you want to know, or if you want a proper demo with your data. Oh, got a question come through. Thank you. Yeah, we can always do individual demos as well. So let me see. Can you still right click and order? For example, if I wanted to order according to the most recent carving? Yes, absolutely. So actually, it's a bit easier than a right click. It's a left click this time. So here we are in the herd structure. Days since carving is this column here. So I can just left click on the column header this time, and that sorts in ascending order. Left click again, and we're into descending. And then, as you've seen, you know, if you want to narrow it down a bit further, you could use a greater than, a less than in here to narrow it down a bit. You're most welcome, that's fine. But yeah, right clicking still relevant on the header. So that really hasn't changed, but there's a few different options in here. So edit grid layout, you might recall, you can then, you know, narrow that table down a bit. If you don't always want to see all of those hundreds of options, you know, you can bespoke that table exactly as you want it, just for a couple of quick reference bits. And right click again, we can, as I've seen, export to Excel straight off. And that's quite a nice one because it will format it exactly right. You know, you don't have to set anything. The other bit to mention as well, we've got a documents header here. Now this is quite new, which generates all of these automatic reports on different topics, as you can see. So we've got a sort of dedicated Yoni's ones, there's some mastitis bits and pieces, general overview, which consultants use for getting a flavour of everything, and you can create your own documents as well. So if there's a particular list, maybe you wanted this table and then a graph to go with it, you know, every month or something, you can actually create that all together, and then you literally just press one button every time you want to run it, and it will update it automatically based on all your new data that's there. Okay, any other questions? So your InterHerd data can come straight into here, as I said, including things like medicines. So all of your stocks will come over, and sometimes I know they do get neglected a little bit, or they sometimes go awry previously, and you end up with, you know, 2,000 tubes written all expired or something like that. But we can write them off, so we can very easily tidy up all of the stocks on here. So if you wanted to start with a clean slate, you know, you can, and then buy in new from that point onwards. But all farm assurance and all that kind of stuff is catered for really well as well. Okay, another question. And written support, is this linked to Red Tractor demands, for example, the data they ask us for? Yes. So several bits to do there. But yeah, certainly the support is exactly the same as you've got now in terms of, fee is actually identical, and it's the same support team, you know, plus myself on hand to answer any questions. We do include training in that. So if you transfer over to this, you'll get some training to get you going to show you how to do it. But yeah, by all means have a demo, and then you can see it, you know, with your own data in as well. Farm assurance, we have there we go. Reports, farm assurance report. This one up, so just bear with me. Fetch the data. So this is similar to the one on old InterHerd, actually. There we go. So just picks out automatically, you know, certain bits of information. So your mastitis cases, and this again you can alter, but up to the last year we can see this month. So of course, we've got a date here. January hasn't finished yet, so it automatically defaults to the previous month. But you've got this month, last month, quarters, and the last 12 months as well. So all the figures for those. But you can actually add your own, not particularly to that report, but you can build up. If I can tick on these sorts of things to bring in cell count, maybe. But if there's another particularly random bit of information that you need, you know, there we go. There's a cell count bands, so that in itself might be absolutely fine, but we can also look at analysis of event incidents, similar sort of idea but in a bit more detail. So if you were looking at mastitis here, run that fetch data, you know, that'll give you the complete list. And actually it does a really nice thing with the quarter here, so you can just by eye see how many are falling front right, so that's that little red quadrant in the sort of cow picture. If it's a black square, it's a repeat case as well. So that kind of thing, you know, very quickly we've had 30 events in that default time frame. And again, you know, you can filter out if you need to. So that's quite easy to do. Okay. Any more for any more? No, all good. Well, I said I'll be about half an hour, and that's come up to it now. So I'll leave it like that. But yeah, do come back to me if you've got any more questions, or if you want to you know, hear a bit more about it. Thank you all very much. Speak to you soon.